Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Second to None podcast. I am Blayne Gilmer here live on the 365 Sports YouTube channel, and I'm here alone tonight as Tavarres King is out doing his thing, actually coaching some high school football. Tavarres coaches for Chattahoochee High School in Georgia, and it is a night where we're going to be previewing SEC Week 10 action. And there is a lot to get to when it comes to these matchups here in the SEC. A lot of predictions, a lot of, different scenarios that have to be delved into here in terms of quarterback play. Like at Georgia, Missouri's got issues with quarterback as well, with Connor Bazelak being out, all of these different kind of things. Then, of course, it is all about the quarterback when you talk about Auburn. They're getting Tanks Bigsby going and stuff like that, but Bo Nix is playing some of the best football of his career, and he is going to be going to College Station where they'll take on Texas A&M. We will preview that tonight. Make sure we cover that in detail, give you the prediction. Tennessee, an important game for the culture there at Tennessee. You got Josh Heupel, who's really trying to do his best to kind of rid that Tennessee program of the the downfall that kind of happened under the Pruitt years there, all the controversies and things like that. They've just come out and said they're not going to self-impose a bowl ban. The investigation is closed, all of those things. And now they've got to kind of put those distractions behind them, of course, and head to Lexington to take on Kentucky as they are a road favorite to do so. So there is a lot going on here in terms of SEC Week 10. And then, of course, a matchup that really intrigues me is Mississippi State traveling to Arkansas, two teams that are 5-3 on the year. Of course, Mississippi State comes out ranked in the top 16, I Bleav, of the college football playoff rankings to start off with. And they're going to be facing Sam Pittman's team, who went just through a murderous part of their schedule over there, a absolute gauntlet that they ran through. Now they've come out on the other side of that. They've had Arkansas Pine Bluff. They've been able to recoup a little bit after a week off. So now you got KJ Jefferson taking on Will Rogers, two quarterbacks that absolutely get it done in two different ways. But before we touch on that, guys, of course, we've got to thank our sponsor and plug them right here, which would be, if you're looking to get into some of these matchups in terms of point spreads and things like that, then you need to remember that BetOnline, guys, is your number one spot for all the basketball and football action this season, guys. Head on over to the new updated desktop or mobile website and sign up today to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use the promo code Bleav50, that's BLEAV50, to receive your bonus from basketball, football, baseball postseason, which just ended with the World Series. As you can see, the Braves right here on the World Series, NHL, boxing, UFC, all the way to Vegas casino games. Make sure you are going to BetOnline to take advantage of all the amazing offers they have available. BetOnline, it's the fastest and the easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. And speaking of where the games start, at 12 o'clock noon kickoff, guys, Eastern time is when Georgia is going to take on Missouri. At last checked, this line early on in the week, it got up to 39 points. There is not, and now it's up to 39.5 according to BetOnline. There is not a whole lot of intrigue here in terms of the outcome of this game. There's a lot going on around this game. Of course, like I said, the world champion Atlanta Braves, Kirby Smart's invited a lot of those guys out there. There's supposed to be some guests from the Atlanta Braves being out there. Of course, also they're honoring the longtime coach Mark Richt at this game. So, that'll be nice to see Mark Richt get kind of well-deserved tribute there from the University of Georgia. But, guys, the thing that's really surrounding this game is the quarterback situation there at Georgia. A lot of people are wanting to see if JT Daniels plays, how much he plays, when he plays. And that is something that, I think all Georgia fans and everybody interested in, other fans of other teams that are going to have to play Georgia down the line are going to want to see, okay, Is JT Daniels going to come back? How's he going to be used? All of those things. Stetson Bennett right now has been playing pretty well for Georgia. Of course, he admittedly said that he had a bad day at the office, so to speak, against Florida, made some bad decisions. Of course, he also did some things that really not many other quarterbacks on Georgia's roster right now can do in the plays that he made, getting away from some of that Florida pass rush, things like that. So it was kind of a mixed bag for Stetson Bennett last week. Now, JT Daniels, of course, who transferred from Southern Cal, got to play the last 4 of the games last year, was named the starter going into the season. And yet now we're going to see if he plays. We're expecting, I also cover Georgia for UGASports.com, which is the Rivals affiliate. We're expecting JT Daniels to get some action tomorrow, but we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening. They've been rolling with Stetson Bennett. Do expect Stetson Bennett to continue to start for the University of Georgia at this time. So, like I said, not a lot of intrigue there. Of course, Connor Bazelak is out for Missouri, so they're going to be rotating 2 quarterbacks as well. So you could see as many as 4 quarterbacks in that game, and if it gets really out of hand, maybe even up to 5 if Georgia plays 3 quarterbacks or more during that game. So don't expect a lot of intrigue in that one. I expect Zamir White to continue to run the ball well for Georgia, and they're going to probably jump out to a big lead early, probably get some explosive plays in the passing game once Missouri starts bringing people down in the box to try to stop Georgia's run game. So I've put in a prediction for Georgia to win this one 51-3. I think they cover the 39.5, which is a lot of points. But I'm going to say they cover this one. So Georgia, take them to win 51-3. Now, a game that I'm more interested in tomorrow is Auburn at Texas A&M. The Aggies are a 4.5-point favorite. The over-under is 49. This is the CBS 3:30 game of the week, and you've got 2 teams who are playing a lot better right now at this point in the year. They struggled early. You had Auburn with the loss to Penn State, and then, of course, they almost lost to Georgia State earlier in the year. And you had Texas A&M go through their struggles once they lost Haynes King, and then Zach Calzada was getting his kind of feet underneath him, and then all of a sudden he plays the game of his life against Alabama, and they upset who is now ranked number 2 in the country, Alabama, in the first CFP playoff rankings, and we'll get to those here in just a minute, guys. But speaking of the CFP rankings, I will put those up here real quick. As you can see that in those first rankings, number 13, and let me move that banner there so you can see it. Number 13 at the bottom is Auburn, and number 14, Texas A&M. So you've got a 13-14 matchup in the first week of the college football rankings here. And really, guys, these are 2 teams that still have SEC West potential and SEC West hopes. Auburn has a gauntlet down the end, as they always do. And it's changed up when they play Georgia in the year now. So they used to have to play Georgia and Alabama almost back to back. But now that's changed up a little bit. They've changed the time when they play Georgia. That's more in October now instead of November going into December. But they could still end up with that same scenario, and they're hoping to do so if Auburn's able to run the table here, beat Alabama, and then face Georgia in the SEC championship. So a scenario that Auburn kind of wanted to get away from, playing Georgia and Alabama every year that close together. Now it looks like they're trying to get back into that scenario. And when you talk about this with Auburn, I think you can't, overstate how well Bo Nix is playing right now. I mean, he is absolutely tearing it up in his last 3 games. Bo Nix in his last 3 games, 64 of 94. That's a 68% pass completion, 785 yards, and 3 touchdowns through the air compared to 2 interceptions and another 3 touchdown rushing on top of that. So Bo Nix playing extremely well. Going into this Ole Miss game, my co-host who's normally here, Tavarres King, and I, we were doing a show, and I said that my bold prediction during that show was that Bo Nix would enter into this game and play the best five game, streak 5-game stretch of his career. I think that Bo is really matured a lot under Mike Bobo, and he has really started to, take control of this offense. He's got control of his emotions, it seems like, which is something that has gotten the best of Bo at sometimes in the past, but they're really, really being efficient and starting to make plays through the air. And they got the running game going again with Tank Bigsby last week. 23 carries for 140 yards, I believe it was, against Ole Miss. And yes, I know Ole Miss is not the defense that, necessarily is known for stopping the run and making sure that they're, totally sound on the defensive side of the ball. Lane Kiffin, much more of a offensive minded coach. However, just getting that confidence back in Tank Bigsby alone, getting him lathered up, so to speak, and getting going, that was a big deal there for Auburn to do. And I think that doing that is going to give Auburn some confidence and advantage going into that, because one thing that travels well is a running game. So if Auburn is able to produce at that level, and Texas A&M, quite honestly, has not been, just stellar in terms of stopping the run. Their last few games, that they've played quality competition, which I don't count Missouri and South Carolina as that. They're really bottom tier SEC teams. They gave up almost 100 yards rushing to Missouri, which has Tyler Beatty, who is a really good running back in his own right, 71 to Missouri. But in terms of Arkansas, 202 yards rushing that Texas A&M allowed. That Alabama game, they allowed 153 rushing yards. So when you talk about this Texas A&M defense, yes, they've got some people like DeMarvin Leal and some guys who are going to be pros at the next level. That's really what Texas A&M was, why a lot of the excitement was around this Texas A&M team coming into the season. But I think that when they've played top tier competition during the year, they've been a little bit susceptible in their run defense. So I'm going to look for Auburn to try to establish not only Tank Bigsby, but Bo Nix's legs early. 2 rushing touchdowns last week against Mississippi, against the Ole Miss Rebels. And that's a big part of his game, not in terms of that he's looking to run, but that Bo Nix is able to create, and he's able to create kind of organically, if you will. There's not a whole lot of, it's not out of Bo Nix's realm. He's natural at doing so. He's been doing it his whole career there at Auburn, but now he's kind of reined it in, and it's kind of almost part of the system under Mike Bobo there. So there is a lot to like when it comes to how Bo Nix and that crew is playing. Like I said, I'm Blayne Gilmer. This is the Second to None podcast. We cover all things SEC related, breaking down Auburn and Texas A&M right now in College Station, and Texas A&M a 4.5-point favorite. I really, really, guys, do not like that point spread right there. I don't think that I think this is very, very close to a field goal game. I don't know if that's a little bit rich in terms of the points right there. So as you can see on the screen, Auburn is a 4.5-point road underdog. The over/under is 49. I'm going to say that Auburn covers the spread for sure. And I'm also going to say I think that with Owen Pappoe back on this Auburn defense and them being able to kind of corral A-Chain and Isaiah Spiller, they're going to force Zach Calzada to beat them. And can Zach Calzada have 2 unbelievable games, when needed against premier SEC team from the state of Alabama? They already did it to the Crimson Tide earlier this year. I don't think they're going to sneak up by any means. This is 2 teams that know how good each other are in Auburn and Texas A&M. So what I'm going to say for my pick is I'm going to pick Auburn to cover, and I'm going to pick Auburn to win outright. I think that Auburn is going to get this thing going up and down just a little bit with some explosive plays. And I think that's going to force Zach Calzada to have to throw the ball a little bit. I think Auburn is well aware that they've had some weaknesses against tight ends. They'll try to do some things to maybe some trap coverages and things like that to take care of Jalen Wydermyer. I like Roger McCreary out wide. I like Smoke Monday for Auburn. Of course, like I said, Owen Papo is back. Zacoby McClain is there. They've got a really, really good foundation on that defense. I'm going to take Auburn to win this game, and I'm going to say they do so in a tight one. I'm going to say they do so 31-28. So I'll take the over, and I'll take Auburn to cover, and I'll take Auburn to win outright in the game of the week there. Now, another game that is very, very interesting is Tennessee minus 1.5. So 1.5 point favorite on the road versus Kentucky over under 57. This is the 7:00 game. And that is taking place in Lexington, like I said, on ESPN2. So when you talk about these two teams, you've got Tennessee, who is coming off a bye, and you have Kentucky, who's coming off a loss to Mississippi State. This is a Kentucky team that I have been well in the corner of all year. I think Kentucky, I even said at one point that I think they had the second best overall defense in the SEC. But that defense got exposed a little bit last week. Now, they didn't get helped with any turnovers, with the turnover issue from Kentucky. Kentucky turned the ball over 4 times. When you do that, that is just highly detrimental to your defense being able to make any kind of consistent stops and things like that. Will Rogers is hard enough to defend, of course, and when you give them extra possessions, and Mike Leach, that creative air raid style offense that he has, which what surprised me was that I think Mississippi State was much more balanced in that game. They were able to kind of mix the run and pass a lot more than they've been doing in the past. Mike Leach made a funny comment, as he often does, says that he often thinks about sometimes doing things, going exclusively passing one game, exclusively rushing the next game. And he said by his luck of the game that he's wanting to go exclusively passing, he'd have a punter, drop the ball or something and have to attempt to rush or something along those lines. So Mike Leach, as always, keeping things lively in his press conferences and things like that. But when you turn the page for Kentucky, one thing about it is you just faced a Mississippi State team who a lot of people don't give Mississippi State the credit that they deserve in terms of being physical on defense. This is a Mississippi State team that is able to, really slow down some of the better offense. I mean, you look at what LSU did to Florida, right? LSU scored 49 points. Well, Mississippi State, they were in a game in the 20s with LSU. So there's different times this year, an NC State team that Mississippi State was able to stop earlier in the year. So that defense, is well known for being able to contain the opposing offense and starting to play with an identity under Zach Arnett. And having said that, it really impacted Will Levis and really impacted that Kentucky offense. And I just do not know if this game sets up well matchup-wise for Kentucky in terms of can they, if this game gets to be more high-scoring, the over-under is 57. And the implied total there, I mean, you're thinking about Tennessee, really 2 points. I mean, they're saying that they're going to hold Tennessee under 30 points in this game. I just don't see that. I think Tennessee, with their tempo, with a bye week and getting to have watched that Mississippi State contest against Kentucky, I think Tennessee with Hendon Hooker and that team getting healthy over there, I really like Hendon Hooker and the receiving core that Tennessee has. I think this is going to be an extremely physical game, but I think that tempo and having the week off that Josh Heupel, is going to be able to take advantage of that and scheme some things up against that Kentucky defense who just played a extremely physical Mississippi State team. People don't give them the credit. Zach Arnett and that defense over there are way more physical than people give them credit for. They've just had times this year, the Bulldogs, where they were inconsistent at times, but they were consistent enough to take care of Kentucky 31-17. And I think Kentucky's just going to come into this one a little banged up. It's basketball season officially up there in Kentucky, so we'll see if that same excitement level is there. I know it's a big recruiting weekend for Kentucky, a night game atmosphere, but I like Tennessee in this game. And I'm going to take Tennessee because of Hendon Hooker and because of the health that they're starting to get to and coming off a bye week, and Josh Heupel being able to get some things corrected and also scheme up for Kentucky with an extra week. I like Tennessee to go in there and cover on this one. I'm also going to take the over on this one because I think that Tennessee is going to be able to score some points early, and that's going to put some stress on Will Levis and Liam Cohn and the Kentucky offense to try to force some things. And they've been turnover prone here lately. I think Tennessee takes advantage of those turnovers. Give me Tennessee winning this one, and I think they're going to do so. 34. I'll take Tennessee 34-24. So I'm definitely going to take the over by 1 point there. So I'll take 34-24 Tennessee over Kentucky. Now, the last game that I'm going to cover head to head right here is Mississippi State at Arkansas. Arkansas being a 4.5 point favorite in Fayetteville. The over under is 54. So, yeah, I know that a lot of people, some people are commenting things like that. That is a 10-point spread for Tennessee. I agree, but I think that Kentucky's going to be beat up and they're going to beat themselves a little bit. But Mississippi State and Arkansas is who we're turning our attention to here. If you have any comments, if you have any questions, go ahead and submit those. I'll be glad to get to those after this preview here of Mississippi State at Arkansas. So, guys, now, like I said, the over-under is 54. And we're going to be thinking in terms of, okay, how does this game go in terms of game flow and game control? I think what Vegas is seeing here is going to be the ability maybe of KJ Jefferson to utilize his legs, get an extra hat in the box in terms of offensively and blocking schemes. Sam Pittman, they've had a little bit of rest here. Mississippi State just faced a physical Kentucky team. We said that Kentucky, it was a physical game. Well, it was a physical game for Mississippi State as well. Anytime you face Stoops and the Kentucky Wildcats, you're going to face a physical ball club. So Mississippi State, is both these teams are 5-3 on the year. They're both searching for consistency, right? You're looking at the highs and the lows for Arkansas. Arkansas, of course, put it together to beat Texas and Texas A&M earlier this year. Lost a nail biter in a just thrilling game to Ole Miss in a high scoring game, and got absolutely trounced by Georgia 37-0 in Athens, which they were just outmatched in that game in terms of depth and the overall physicality of that game. I felt like, especially in the trenches, but Sam Pittman is doing a good job and they're starting to get healthier in those trenches, right? Because they were banged up there at center and at guard there for a little while. So Sam Pittman's starting to get healthier over there. I think that's the reason that you see Vegas put them as a 4.5 point favorite. But I think that the Pirate over there, Mike Leach, has this Mississippi State ball club playing with confidence. And, I'll put the graphic up once again of the first college football playoff ranking, top 25. You see Mississippi State sitting there at 17. So the committee has respect for what Mike Leach has been putting together there, and I do as well. I think that Mike Leach is really he likes his quarterback there with Will Rogers. Trust him. Is starting to get that run game going in addition to what they're able to do through that air raid offense. And I think when you look at Arkansas and that 3-man front that they face, that they put out there, that 3-2-6 type defense, Georgia saw that and didn't even attempt to try to throw the football. They ran it all night all day, actually, with it being a noon kickoff that day. But they ran it and ran it and ran it. Only, I think, attempted 11 passes and were able to put up a big number, I think well over 200 rushing yards against Arkansas. I think you'll see Mississippi State do similar to that. Obviously, Mississippi State's not just going to pound the rock consistently with it being the air raid style of offense, but I think that Mississippi State is more than willing to run the football if they need to, and also do maybe an extension of the run game with some quick screens and things like that. Will Rogers. I just like how Mississippi State is playing right now. I think they've got a lot of confidence, a lot of momentum, and I'm not so sure that when you get big guys, Arkansas is well suited up front on either side. When you get big guys going side to side and start wearing them out, then that's when you can start attacking the middle. And I think that when you're talking about Mississippi State, that Mike Leach is going to he's going to use all 53 and a third yards width of the field, right? So it's 53 and a third yard, sideline to sideline. And I think you're going to see, Mike Leach utilize that. And Will Rogers is just not afraid to sling it as well. 2,890 passing yards on the year. So I think in this game, you're going to see Arkansas not be able to stop the run effectively when they need to. And when you can't do that, that really opens up everything for Mike Leach, right? I think conversely to that, KJ Jefferson will have some success. He's got Treylon Burks. He's got Treylon Smith. I mean, they've got some weapons over at Arkansas, but I don't know if it'll be enough. I think it's interesting that they're a 4.5-point favorite. I'm definitely going to take, in terms of against the spread, I'm definitely going to take Mississippi State against that Bet Online spread right there. So I like Mississippi State to cover. And in fact, I'm going to pick Mississippi State the second time. I'm going with a road team. Actually, I'm going with road teams in all three of these games. I know it's kind of bucking a trend because with COVID-19 last year and stadiums being empty, things like that, the home field advantage has been extreme and it has been impactful this year. But I think Mississippi State's going to go quiet them earlier. So I feel like I said, I like all three road teams that we broke down the games of this week in terms of Auburn going to College Station, taking out Texas A&M. I like that one. I like Tennessee going on the road and taking care of a beat-up Kentucky team, a Kentucky team that is very turnover prone right now. And I think, like I said, it's getting to be basketball season now. And I know that Kentucky's serious about football, but, some of that luster has been knocked off after the Mississippi State loss last week, and they were in a physical game. So, like I said, I'm going to take Auburn to beat Texas A&M and College Station. I'm going to take Tennessee to beat Kentucky, and I think they do it pretty well too. I think 34-24. And then in this game, I like Mike Leach's ability to be able to take advantage of that 3-2-6 defense, manipulate that front, and manipulate how Arkansas has to play coverage. And I think Leach gets the best of Barry Odom and his defense this time around. I'm going to take the over on this as well, because I think there'll be some points scored in this game. And I think you're going to see Mississippi State and Will Rogers have a big game in this one. So let's see. I think, it's a 4.5-point spread. Like I said, I like Mississippi State to cover and to win outright. And I'm going to pick Mississippi State in this game to win 38-31. So I'm going to take the over for sure. You've seen Arkansas already be in these high scoring games this year in that Mississippi game, right? You've seen them be able to have to go back and forth and a 2-point conversion there at the end is what they failed to get and didn't win that game. But it's not like Arkansas is unable to score points. I mean, guys, Treylon Burks is one of the best receivers, if not the best receiver in the entire SEC. But my belief in Mississippi State in this game, obviously they've got an offensive identity. They're able to mix it up on offense when they need to and attack the weaknesses of the defense. But I like Zach Arnett's ability as a defensive coordinator and what he has instilled in this defense. I mean, they play tough. They rally to the ball. They're advantageous Kentucky put the ball in peril last week and they took advantage of it, created 4 turnovers. So I really think that Mississippi State is starting to come into their own. I think the confidence from, not that coaches really care about these CFP rankings and stuff like that, but it can be a boost, especially to a program like Mississippi State starting to get a little bit of wind under its sails. So that is each of the previews there for the college or for the SEC Week 10 action. I like, as I said, once again, I like Auburn to beat Texas A&M on the road. I like Tennessee to go on the road and take care of Kentucky and Mississippi State. So 3 road victories, I think, tomorrow on that one. And then, of course, on the Georgia quarterback situation, as I mentioned earlier, expect Stetson Bennett to start in this game. I think you'll see JT Daniels get some playing time. I don't know that it'll be, I don't know how it'll be split or things like that. I don't think anybody does. We've not been in practice there. We've not seen what's going on, but all reports indicate that Stetson Bennett continues to do what's needed around this offense. And guys, when you have now Jamari Sawyer's out for a couple of weeks, right? So Georgia's already had their starting left tackle, Jamari Sawyer. Georgia's already had some issues with pass protection against, just straight drop back passing. And when that happens, guys, you have to have someone, Kirby Smart said, you have to have someone that can get you out of a bad play, not meaning checking pre-snap, meaning that if there are breakdowns post-snap, you have to have someone who can create. And JT Daniels just does not have the same mobility that Stetson Bennett does. JT Daniels has a NFL arm, of course. I mean, he's got great arm talent, but they also, the coaches, and Kirby Smart has said this publicly, they believe in the arm talent of Stetson Bennett. It is just the ability to make decisions at the key moments at the right time. Will he always have a couple of decisions a game that will end up hurting him and hurting Georgia subsequently? Kirby Smart also said that, that one of his first the first interception he had against Florida, which prior to the Florida game, Stetson Bennett had been doing a really good job of taking care of the football. But, in that Florida game, like I said, 2 interceptions. The first one was just bad read. He's got to throw that ball away, but it ended up being basically the same as a punt. It goes down to the 2-yard line or so, and then 3 plays later, Nolan Smith strips the football. They score, things of that nature for Georgia. So it wasn't very consequential in terms of it didn't turn into points going the other way, but it's definitely something that Stetson Bennett has to learn from if he's going to continue to be the quarterback for the University of Georgia, because with a defense that is that good as Georgia's is, you have to just be efficient on offense, right? And I know you want to be explosive, and everybody's clamoring for the 2019 LSU and the 2020 Alabama offense, but that is not necessary when you have a defense the caliber of Georgia's defense. That front 7 is the best in the country, hands down. The secondary was thought to be a weakness coming into the year. Keely Ringo and De'Aaron Kendrick, the transfer from Clemson, have proved to be 2 of the better corners in the entire country. And now the safety play is what has been kind of the topic of discussion. Can Lewis Seen cover effectively? Everybody knows that he can knock people's heads off. Dan Jackson was playing a walk-on there for Georgia for a while. Now Chris Smith is back from his shoulder injury. So the safety position seems to be getting fortified a little bit. People are attacking Latavius Brini a little bit. He got attacked, in that Auburn game. They put him in a lot of one-on-one situations in pass coverage, and Bo Nix ended up throwing for over 200 yards in that game. I think 212 yards, which is a big amount against Georgia this season. So we shall see what the offense ends up looking like. I think they're going to have some explosivity in this game tomorrow against Missouri, no matter which quarterback is in there. But I'm just saying, if Stetson Bennett is able to make quality decisions, I think his mobility and Georgia's situation at the offensive line and Georgia's situation, injuries at receiver, bodes well for Stetson Bennett to continue to play. That is, if he can value the ball, right? If he can't value the ball, if he continues to turn the ball over, then you're going to see JT Daniels not only get some playing time, but probably get a lot of playing time. I have any kind of comments right here. We'll put a comment up here. It said, it would be a mistake for the Gators to pull Anthony Richardson out of the starting lineup despite his performance against Georgia. The Gators really don't have a reliable backup. Well, Emory Jones, I don't know what the status is on Emory Jones and Anthony Richardson's health. I know Anthony Richardson was in concussion protocol at one point after the Georgia game right there. So I'm not sure. I'm not checked in to see what the health situation is on that one. I know Florida's a 20-point favorite, so it really shouldn't matter who's playing quarterback against South Carolina. South Carolina's really struggling this game. But Eric Thunder Wolfo, thank you so much for the comment there. If anybody has any comments or questions, well, feel free to submit them. I'll be answering those here right before I get off. But as you look at things, like I said, the other games that we didn't break down, Alabama, LSU, this game's really kind of almost an afterthought, which who would have thought that after the last couple of years, or so, 2019 season especially. But I think you're looking at an Alabama team who all of a sudden now is being, once again, they're the object of ire for a lot of people around the country. A lot of people don't think that Alabama should have been ranked number 2 in the college football playoff rankings because they lost to a unranked Texas A&M team. But let me tell you something. The AP poll is absolute garbage. So it does not matter where teams are ranked in the AP poll. A lot of these reporters, a lot of these guys who have votes in the AP poll, they do not watch all the games. They're just looking at box scores and seeing what's going on. Anybody could tell you that Texas A&M was one of the most talented teams, bar none, coming into this year. They lost their quarterback. They were in a state of disarray a little bit there, and were trying to get their legs underneath them, find an identity offensively, and lost a couple games, lost to Arkansas, lost to Mississippi State, and then here comes that win against Alabama. Now, when you talk about going to College Station, going on the road, especially in front of that 12th man and things like that, also realize that Bryce Young, I think that was only his second, true road start right there, guys, at that point. So that Alabama team, you talk about Bryce Young alone, how much he's grown and started to use his legs. I think that's why you're going to see Alabama be able to handle LSU, because this LSU defense is just banged up tremendously, injuries galore. Of course, Ed Orgeron's out of there. He's his own interim coach right now. Who knows what's going on with all of that. So I think Alabama, of course, wins that one handily. Another game that is interesting is Malik Willis and Matt Corral. We're not going to, Liberty and Hugh Freeze coming back to Ole Miss. Not really going to, break down that one in detail, but it's a noon kickoff game. So 11 o'clock Central Time over there. Of course, Lane Kiffin and company, he came out and said that they had 9 of 11 starters injured on offense. So if that's true, if that's not just a lot of, sandbagging and things like that, depending on the health of Matt Corral, if he's not 100% coming into that one, Malik Willis is someone who could legitimately be the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft. I mean, he's that talented. He's that kind of guy. And Hugh Freeze uses him very well. He's their leading rusher and, of course, leading passer as their quarterback. So it'll be interesting. The 7-2 independent Liberty Flames coming in there to take on Ole Miss. I tend to think that Ole Miss is going to win the football game. I think they'll just find enough ways to get a stop here or there. But if they sleepwalk in this game, don't be surprised that Liberty, but I'm not making an official pick on that one. However, I will repeat one more time before we get off here for the evening. And like I said, if anybody has any comments, or questions, go ahead and submit them. I'd be glad to talk about it. But I will recap real quick my picks right here for the week. The first pick that we made, let me pull the banner up here for those watching on the 365 Sports YouTube channel. Auburn at Texas A&M. I picked Auburn in this game, not only to cover, but to win outright. And I just think that Auburn and Bo Nix are playing as good as they've played in a long time. I think Brian Harsin doing a good job of getting that crew to kind of take on his personality a little bit. I think Derek Mason and Mike Bobo have done a good job coming in there and kind of helping him with the lay of the land in the SEC. I like Bo Nix to continue to put on that Superman cape and do some special things there, especially with them getting Tank Bigsby rolling and Texas A&M's defense in terms of run defense against talented teams this year has been suspect at times. So give me Auburn to cover and win. Take the over as well there in College Station. I said Tennessee. I like Tennessee by a good margin. Like I said, I'm going to take Tennessee 34-24. They're a 1.5 point favorite, but I think Kentucky's going to be beat up after that Mississippi State game. I think that you got Tennessee coming off a bye week. Josh Heupel, that up-tempo offense. Hendon Hooker is special. I mean, he's playing really well. I think Hendon Hooker is doing some really good things for Tennessee. I like the receiving core for Tennessee, and I think, and much like a Georgia defense, I think Kentucky defense, they're a lot better on their front seven than they are on the back end. Give me Tennessee and Hendon Hooker to make some big plays in this one. I like them to cover and to win outright as well, of course. And then I'm going to take Mississippi State winning as a road underdog, even though they are ranked 17th, of course, in the college football playoff rankings. And I said this will be a high-scoring one. Give me Mississippi State 38-31 over Arkansas in Fayetteville. That game's 4 o'clock on the SEC Network. Guys, I am Blayne Gilmer. This is the Second to None podcast. Please go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit a like, give us a review. We greatly appreciate that. And also, you can find using at Second to None or the Second to None podcast. I'll go ahead and put this this banner up here so you can see all the graphics at Second to None down here on the bottom right. Second to None podcast. Find us on Apple, Spotify, anywhere you listen to your podcast. Just search Second to None or search my name, Blayne Gilmer, and you'll be able to find it. Of course, my regular co-host is Tavarres King, who was a former Georgia and NFL receiver. He's out doing some coaching duties tonight as he coaches for Chattahoochee High School. But I appreciate all of you that joined us. Like I said, hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications, and I'll leave you with this as we go out, guys. I think it's going to be a entertaining game. That Auburn Texas A&M game could be an instant classic. So please, like I said, like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. This podcast, the Second to None podcast, is sponsored by Bet Online, and it's on the Bleav Podcast Network and streaming on the 365 Sports YouTube channel. And we'll catch you next time for a Reaction Monday episode that comes out on podcast format, but we stream it on Sunday nights here going live. So we will catch you then, guys.